The spiritual community is riddled with psychopaths. I am not a psychopath. I am really on the side where it's like more so I use my logic with my spiritual practice. Like I lean way more on logic than I do on my spiritual practice. And why I'm making this video is because I just saw somebody that I follow using AI to receive a collective message. And I cannot get down with that. I can't get down with AI in general because of like how I feel about the business practices that a lot of the people that have created this AI, the way that they go about it, how they're treating the environment, all of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, God created all of this, right? If we're thinking about it that way, that's how I think spiritually. I feel like God is the creator. God made the earth, like all this stuff, whatever. And all of us, like, the environment was created by God. We were created by God. We are all supposed to be good stewards to what God gave us, which is the land. So I feel like what they've been doing with these centers, these places to give you the ChatGPT messages, for example, is draining our resources, is draining our land, and that is not being a good steward to the land. Okay, so where it becomes these people are psychotic is this shit. ChatGPT is literally just spitting information at you. It's not an all-knowing being, it just gives you a random message. It doesn't, it can't teach you shit. It can't feel. It doesn't have a soul. You know what I'm saying? It's very complicated, obviously, because it's up to the practitioner and how they use it, and everything is a tool, but that is not of God, if I want to put it like that, without getting like woo-woo, like computers and shit like that. But there's a really like, not a far line, but there's a very fuzzy line between abusing what God has given us, misusing what God has given us as a tool, and working with something. I feel like you can really teeter over to abusing and misusing quickly when it comes to ChatGPT in spiritual practices, because once you start believing, like, because the ChatGPT is going to tell you what you really want to hear, you're programming it to communicate to you in certain ways. What happens when it's just spewing out shit that you want to hear constantly? How do you know? God is not always going to tell you what you want to hear. That's the way my relationship with God works. God don't always give me, like, everything don't go my way when it come to God. Sometimes things gonna have to go God's way. And when I say that, I mean, like, sometimes the circumstances just not gonna work out in your favor. Logic. That's just how it goes. That's just life. Everything ain't gonna work out to your best possible outcome. Sometimes the best possible outcome ain't what you thought. ChatGPT only knows what we tell it. So if you're talking to it about God, it only knows the God that's been programmed into that system. It doesn't know the God that we don't acknowledge. And what we don't acknowledge is the bad things. A lot of times people don't acknowledge the bad part. People don't acknowledge the hard part. Because if we talk about the Bible and all that shit and Christian and all that stuff, there's a lot of things that have been manipulated, misused, abused when it comes to Christian practices, when it comes specifically to the Bible. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge that part when it comes to Christian practices, when it comes to Christianity. I acknowledge it because my life has not been easy. Things have not always gone my way. I'm a black woman in this country. So I know what the truth is. And the truth is, there's supposed to be a light and a darkness. I don't trust the darkness when it comes to ChatGPT, because the darkness to ChatGPT is destroying the land that God gave us. Why would I use that purposefully to get certain types of messages? A message that's just gonna blow smoke up my ass, for example. It's just gonna tell me what they think God, what they've been programmed to think God is supposed to say to me, which is something good. For example, this ChatGPT program, these programs, that these chatbots that people have been talking to, these AI programs, have been telling people to kill themselves. Now, in the pulpit, in Christian practice, killing yourself is a sin. Why would I go to a program that could easily push me to my own demise? Why would I program that system to tell me what God has to say to me? I'm just going to pray. And God is going to show up in my life the way God shows up in my life. I don't know if... it's getting complicated. Hold on. Now, I don't know if I am completely right about God and who God is and what God is. But I know what my experiences are. And I know I ain't trusting ChatGPT to tell me who God is. Or what God has to say to me. Because one thing for sure, God speaks to everybody in a unique way. I will never seek God's voice from a computer. I have never gotten online and sought out God from a message that came from Apple, from the people that program the Apple phones. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thought, that's the mindset that I have in relation to ChatGPT and spiritual practices. I will never put in a question that I have for God in a computer program and expect it to spit me out an answer. That just doesn't make sense to me. I will use the tools that God has given me, which is communication. That's my big, that's my thing. I communicate. The way God communicates to me is through people. He talks to me through experiences. I asked God for an answer one time and I got an answer through a conversation, with a random person that I met in a store. You know what I'm saying? Or I asked God for an answer and my grandma calls me and she reads, scripture, and she prays for me in that moment. Just a random phone call though. Those are the moments where I say that was God. I pray to God because I'm really hungry and I don't know what I want to eat. And the next thing that I see is a recipe for a meal that I've been, kind of putting off that I wanted to eat. It reminds me of something. It's like God uses what you have around you. But ChatGPT just doesn't seem like the tool that I think a lot of practitioners are making it out to be. And it can become very abusive quickly. Because what happens when the program tells you to do something harmful, or it says something harmful, or it puts you in a psychosis where you're stuck for the rest of your life and you're constantly looking for this answer in this computer? Something that was made to abuse our system, abuse our land, that they're using as a tool to harm people in certain areas like Memphis. There's a lot of shit going on in Memphis right now. I don't want my Memphis people fucked over because of me using ChatGPT or Grok on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of, I don't know. I'm just thinking. I think it's crazy. But I read tarot cards. So I don't know.